Deep conversations with the right people are priceless, and ideas are formed in the crucible of authentic, connected, and sometimes controversial conversations. No ideas are off the table because why would they be? Join us on Inquisitive Souls as we lead with curiosity, empathy, and a massive heaping of juvenile humor. Join us on this learning journey. Hey everybody, I wanted to make a quick podcast episode to talk about core values and how to use appreciative inquiry to help a team implement core values. Now, this is actually the second part. I should probably go back and talk about the first thing that I did, but regardless, my team at work, our core values that we came up with using an appreciative inquiry approach are innovation, dedication, collaboration, service mindset, and meaningful relationships. So those are the 5 things that our team valued. Now, typically what will happen is, like right now, those are just words. They're interesting. They're a snapshot of what's important to the team. But the second part, the most important part, is how do you bring those to life once you've identified those values? So here's what I'm going to do with the team this week. And I wanted to share it with you because it uses appreciative inquiry, and it also it uses appreciative inquiry, and I want to give you a real life example of how you can do that, and then how you could do that to use AI to embed these values into the operating system of a team. Okay, so first thing we're going to get together, and I'm not going to go through all the details here, but I'll just give you an overview. If you ever want to know more, email me at jason@adaptivegrowth.ca, or just go to our website at adaptivegrowth.ca. But the first thing you want to do when you get people in the room is you want to get them to connect to purpose, about why it's important for them to be here right now. So the idea would be you ask them, like appreciative inquiry is all about generative questions, and I'll do lots more podcasts on generative questions and the power of questions to direct our energy and focus. But a purpose question in this context is, why is it important to be here in this room right now, working together to bring our core values more fully to life? How might that create a deeper sense of meaning and fulfillment in your work and in your life? So what we'll do is we'll give them just a couple of minutes to, put some music on, jot down some thoughts about that. And then what I'll get the team to do is I'll get them to do a couple of shares with each other, like write, pair, share, partner shares. So pick somebody, share your answer, they share theirs. Maybe do that 2 or 3 times, and then get a couple people to either share what they heard, like share what they wrote down, or share what the other person said. Totally up to them. So maybe do 2 or 3 of those. And what that does is it really sets the context for why it's important to be here. And it's amazing how much that simple little exercise brings the room to life. Next thing we're going to do is we got about 90 minutes to do this. We're going to do a high point story. So the question, basically the idea of a high point story is you want to look back in the past and you want to identify a time where something really great has happened related to the appreciative task. So in this case, our appreciative task is embedding our core values into our operating system. And so what you want to do is look back in the past and look for the best of the past. So the question is, in the short time this team has been together, we've all seen examples of our core values in action. Think of a time where you've seen a teammate live our core values in a way that stood out as particularly important or meaningful. Who was involved and what was happening? What was the outcome? And what made it stand out to you as important or noteworthy? And I think in this case, you can do all kinds of different things here in an exercise like this. Now we'll go into all the details. However, what we'll do is we'll give people a few minutes to write things down. We'll do some shares, and maybe we'll grab some themes out of that. I'm not 100% sure yet. Sometimes what you can do is you can get people to write down, a couple of the important things that they've heard, and then you can do some theming. You can organize them into themes and see what emerges. But regardless, I haven't really figured that out quite yet. The next thing we want to do is continuity, which in other words, so we've looked for the best of the past, and now continuity is really about the best of right now, right? And it's sort of what's working really well right now that we would that we want to keep, right? So continuity question would be, what one or two ways do you see us living our core values that are so important to you, and you want to keep them going forward? In other words, what one or two ways are working so well that you want to keep them no matter how much we grow and change in the future, right? So that's a really good way of saying what's working great right now. And again, I'm not 100% sure what I want to do here, because what I really want to do is my idea here is not really, it's to really embed the living in these core values into our operating system. So what I'll probably do is get people to, write down one or two ways, share them on post-it notes, and then we'll maybe theme them. I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do there, but again, you generate a lot of data here in a very short period of time. Fundamentally, what I really want to do here is, like in AI, then what you would do is you would imagine the future. But what I want to do is I want to design. I feel like I'm going to get John Berghoff to come on the podcast, and so him and I can walk through and explain AI, but that's beyond the scope. I just got certified actually last week. I'm so freaking pumped. But what I want to do is I want to use a method called one conversation brainstorming, and I'll explain this in another episode. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a couple of questions and then get the team to brainstorm this very rapidly all at once. The first question is, how might we ritualize catching, acknowledging, and celebrating our teammates when we see them embodying our core values? So in other words, how do we make looking for, seeing, and like celebrating people living the way that we say is really important for us to live, living our core values? How do we make catching it part of our culture, part of our team culture? Because celebrating that kind of stuff is really important. Okay. And then what we'll do here is so let me do the second question, because there's two real things I want to explore. So one is kind of how do we create it in our culture when we catch people doing things. The second question is how might we create systems? I don't really like this question actually, but something like this: how might we create systems where we can rapidly brainstorm, prototype, and implement ideas to help us make our core values part of our operating system? And what I mean by that, I think I need to reword that a little bit, but what I mean by that is I want to rapidly brainstorm what are the systems or ways of working that we can implement where part of our culture is always thinking about brainstorming ideas together, but rapidly implementing and testing them to help us make our core values part of our operating system. So in my mind, I'm imagining like a couple week cycle where we're always working to think about how we can bring those values more fully to life. So if you look at the example of, for example, a service mindset, maybe part of that is we want to rapidly brainstorm around that particular core value and say, okay, how might we bring the value of a service mindset more fully to life on our team? Then rapidly brainstorm, come up, do some group voting, come up with the best idea, one with a really simple, like a really actionable scope. Like we don't want to take on things that are too big. We just want to rapidly implement. And then we want to implement those ideas. So what I want the team to do is I want us to all work together to come up with the system for doing that, right? And so I'm really, really excited about it. And that's really the implementation part. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do with the team. And so basically, again, just to summarize that, I'm going to use appreciative inquiry. First thing we're going to do is we're going to connect to purpose. And then we're going to reflect on a high point story about what's working really well. And then we're going to talk, or what has worked really well, when we've seen a teammate doing something really embodying our core values. And then we want to spend some time thinking about what are we doing as it relates to our core values really well right now, so well, in fact, that we want to keep them and build on them going forward. And then we're going to do some very rapid brainstorming around how we make, celebrating living those core values part of our culture. And then how do we create a system where we are rapidly prototyping and implementing ideas to help us bring our values, to help us make our core values part of our operating system. And it doesn't mean we have to come up with the ideal system. It's that we brainstorm, some systems, and then we prototype them and see what works. And then it's just all an experiment, right? So that's what I'm going to do with the team. I'm really excited about it because when we went through the exercise to define their core values, they were so pumped about it. And these conversations bring teams and individuals, and even on a grander scale, communities to life. And so what I'll do is I'll make sure that you know the results of that. And yeah, like I said, I got some more fine tuning to do between now and then, but I just was writing down, I was just designing the questions and the exercises, and I was getting excited. So I wanted to make a quick podcast episode about it. So on Inquisitive Souls, we talk about whatever. It seems to be me doing a lot of monologues, but I have actually some great interviews with some guests coming up. So stay fucking tuned. Thanks for listening to the Emotionally Excellent Man Show. Now, go own your shit like the powerful, handsome boss man that you are.